Welcome to the Mindful Healers podcast with
Dr. Jessie Mahoney
and Dr. Ni-Cheng Liang.
We are here to help you learn to pause and be present, awaken your breath, and harness the ripple effects of mindfulness for radiant health.
We get you. We know you. We are you.
We have both been successful on the surface, yet struggling underneath. We have both had cluttered brains, been overwhelmed, and exhausted.
We're healers who have found solutions and want to share them with you.
Join us here to discover a better way.
Welcome to the Mindful Healers podcast. Our episode today is on charting with ease. A reminder that our podcasts are not to be construed as medical advice. For today's episode, our intention is to hopefully inspire you to use charting, yes, charting, or any other task that you would rather not do as an opportunity to practice mindfulness.
We hope you discover it's possible to chart with relative ease and to do any chore or task that perhaps you don't like with less struggle and more ease. We also hope you will discover that you don't have to like charting, and you may not ever like charting, but that doesn't mean you can't do it with ease. Takeaways from today's episode are that charting is a metaphor for all the things in life that you don't want to do, but have to do. And when we learn to approach it mindfully, it's way better.
Another takeaway we hope that you'll get is that choosing a mindset going into and while charting or doing whatever it is that you rather not do might actually change the experience for you in unexpected ways. So this episode is inspired by my own struggles with charting. I remember years ago being at Walt Disney World on spring break with my extended family and being 60 charts behind. I was basically using the first 2 to 3 hours of the day charting and trying to catch up. And I missed out. I missed out on time with my family members that I don't usually see. And I remember distinctly, I came to a point where I said, no more. I wasn't going to continue to get myself in a situation of feeling bogged down with all this work hanging over my head while on vacation and taking away precious time from my family. So no more charting on vacations, no more electronic medical record work while I'm with my family. And I became ultimately very determined to uphold this boundary. And upholding this boundary didn't come without its own challenges, but it really did require a lot of changes in what I usually do with regards to how I chart during the day. So I wanted to share with you that I started pre-templating my notes, and that has been a game changer for me. Yes, I take my own time to pre-template my notes, but with my own time, I can also dictate the environment in which I'm pre-templating. So I try to optimize my environment when I am pre-templating in a way that is enjoyable for me. So I might have some of my favorite tea that I can sip on, some music that I enjoy listening to. Sometimes I chart outside. And in doing this pre-templating work, it is a way in which I've set myself up for success because I'm able to take the time to review test results, import them into the future note, and that allows me to kind of focus and highlight on topics of discussion during the clinic visit, so it's much more efficient and focused. And in my pre-templating journey, it has now enabled me to close the chart 95% of the time with my patient sitting right in front of me before they've even left the office. The other thing that's also been really helpful for me is that I touch type, which enables me to continue to maintain eye contact with the patient. And because I've already written most of my note, if there's an important emotional, deep topic that inevitably comes up, I am able to take a break from typing and fully face the patient without the computer in between, making eye contact, shoulders facing the patient, and giving them truly my undivided attention without feeling like, oh no, now I'm behind on my charting. I've also really let go of my perfectionistic tendencies. Before, my notes were much longer, and I took pride in how perfect they were. And now, in order to not be 60 charts behind on the regular, my notes sometimes have small typos in them, but I no longer feel as compelled to ensure that my notes are 100% perfect. And letting go of that perfection has been tremendously liberating.
This is so interesting in that I also had chart issues, but very different chart issues. And I found actually very different chart solutions. And it tells me that there's so many different ways to solve the charting drama and the charting dilemmas that we all face. And figuring out who we are and how our brain works and what makes us feel good and makes things more easeful is really the magic in the solution. And so I would never go on vacation with charts done, but I would always have 20 or 25 charts that I was kind of keeping up on or behind. And then I would have to be catching up or go in early and do them the day before. I would always get them done before I went on the airplane or before I went somewhere, but it made getting ready for trips overwhelming. And I kind of had a pre-written rule, apparently, now that I am sharing the story, that 20 or 25 was the maximum number. And like, that is when I had to solve the problem. But I did give myself that cushion because I felt empowered, not having to close them all in the moment with the patient and being able to choose whether I wanted to spend more time with patients on that day or more time with my colleagues or my staff, or on days where I wanted to leave early, not early, but on time, to go to perhaps see one of my boys' baseball games. And so I gave myself permission around it. And that felt very empowering to me. But it meant that I often had this 20, always 20 to 25 charts that would be there that were usually not more than 48 to 72 hours overdue. And so I had these rules in my head that kind of kept me safe about them, which is really interesting. So I also had a way that I would do charts that I considered self-care. So that meant all the things I just told you. It also meant doing them often at home on my laptop, on my couch with music in my pajamas, after coming home and having dinner with my family. And so for me, that felt luxurious and easeful. And it made them not feel so burdensome and overwhelming. I know for many people, though, the self-care version is to leave without a single chart. And so we're all different. And I never pre-chart and never templated, but I did have good dot phrases that had that were short. And I am someone who believes in efficiency and simplicity and minimalism. And I kept to that in my notes. And I think that's probably what kept me safe. Where I ran into trouble was my thoughts about charting, because I really then thought that I should enjoy charting and that I could make it good and fun always. And I actually was coached on this by Sarah Dill a few years ago. And what she said actually forever changed my charting approach. And so I just want to honor her for that, which is, it's just like brushing your teeth. You don't have to like it. And as kids, right, we don't like brushing our teeth. We just do it. And so she said to me, you're never going to want to chart, because I kept waiting for the time that I wanted to do it. And I never wanted to. And so that's how I got out of having this pile that always felt a little bit burdensome, but not too burdensome. Because I was like, it's just like brushing my teeth. I'm not going to want to do it at 5. I don't want to do it at 2. So I would then just kind of churn through it. And just like brushing your teeth, when you're done with the charts, you feel better. Like if you don't do your charts, you don't feel good. You don't brush your teeth feel icky. You get them done, you feel way better. So for me, that actually was really just a mind switch, that when I accepted that I wasn't going to want to do them, it wasn't fun. It was kind of part of the job. It was like paying taxes, as I think is what she likened it to also. I was like, oh, I was able to let go of the resistance to it, which I thought was just incredibly liberating for me. The other thing that I see, and hasn't been an issue for me, but has been an issue for others, is a lot of judgment around charting. And so that when you have those piles of 60 charts or 100 charts, people then feel like they're not a good doctor, and they feel like there's a hopelessness and a shame and a frustration and a judgment. And so then the charting has all this energy that you mentioned, all this negative energy, and they're not bringing to the experience even neutral. And so one of the things that I found powerful about the toothbrushing analogy is that it makes the whole thing neutral. There's no shame. There's no drama. It's just a neutral thing that you have to do, like taking out the garbage or, paying your taxes. And then it kind of allows you to just move forward, giving it a lot less energy and a lot less heaviness and weightiness to it.
I think dentists are really pleased with our podcast since we keep bringing up toothbrushing as analogies. I remember earlier on in our podcast journey, I think it was like maybe episode 3 or 4, that we likened practicing mindfulness to brushing your teeth. You don't wait for a cavity to form to brush your teeth, similar to you don't wait until you are burnt out, anxious, stressed, whatever negative emotion that you might be experiencing in that time to practice mindfulness. That mindfulness is kind of like a prophylaxis of sorts. So I think that it's funny that the toothbrushing analogy works yet again in a different way on our podcast.
Apparently, everyone who listens will have clean teeth and wonderful feeling mouths and clean in baskets as a result.
And hopefully no cavities.
Well, to take this toothbrushing analogy further, having a big in basket with old charts is kind of like having cavities. Then you have to dig yourself out and get them filled, and it's painful and it hurts for a while, and it just sort of adds as cumulative and causes more problems. Whereas brushing your teeth ahead of time, just getting through the charts without drama, feels very different.
So I wanted to offer some of my concrete tips. When broaching charting, you can ground into your attention, grounding into your intention for what you chart. So yeah, sometimes what you document is purely for billing, but thinking about what the main purpose of what you're writing is for. And for me, it's so clinicians and myself can learn or be reminded about the patient's circumstance, my own thoughts, and the plan for that particular circumstance. It's kind of like a map of sorts. And it doesn't have to be this fancy topographic 3D map that I construct. But if it's a map that has the highlights, the key points of reference, a map that's helpful and concise, then we can be empowered not to get bogged down in the details. So I invite everyone to think about getting selective about what's pertinent to actually include. And then to spend some time maybe with your EMR help desk or IT person on developing the infrastructure and the supports for your success in charting, meaning building templates, sometimes building off of templates that already exist, but then personalizing them to what works for you. And then also figuring out what smart phrases to have. And I'll say that the time invested in setting this up will ultimately save you many, many, many more hours of time typing every single thing out.
I just want to add something about the templates too. I often found myself thinking it would be better if I borrowed someone else's or updated someone else's. But what I found was that when I made my own, that they felt much more personal and they were much more relevant. And so it's one of those things that you're investing time to save time, if it's really what you want to share in your notes. And also what's fun to you. So as a pediatrician, I always like to put in something fun or something about what they can do or what they are for Halloween or something. And I think giving yourself just a little bit of latitude and a little bit of fun in there, and to use it as something that can generate that positive feeling while you're doing it, can also be a really helpful tool.
Another tip I have is to delegate what you can. So having your medical assistants fill in the fields for chief complaint, vitals, helping out with medication reconciliation, and ensuring like the right referring healthcare professional and the right primary care professional that can be auto-populated into your template is a tremendous time saver. And then for many, having a scribe has been tremendously helpful as well. One important tip I offer is that charting is an opportunity to let go of perfect. Charting can be viewed with the lens of good enough. We don't have to put pressure on ourselves to chart 100% perfectly 100% of the time. Good enough is good enough.
I like mostly good.
And then lastly, and perhaps most importantly, what if you came with a mindset that helped you get through your charting? So could charting, the exercise of charting, be an opportunity to actually practice mindfulness? So reminding you that mindfulness is paying attention on purpose to the present moment. Can you pay attention to your present moment when you're charting without any judgment? So without any of the preconceived notions and sometimes the negativity or the eye rolling that might come with charting, and actually broaching it in a way that is more opportunistic. Like it's a way of communication that is actually really effective to help heal our patients. If we make it so, though. So if we create these maps that are concise and helpful in illustrating our patient's healing journey and what our thought process is about it. So even our whole mindset about charting and thinking about what kind of mindset you can have about charting that would serve you can be helpful in charting or any other task that you would rather not do.
I also think it's an opportunity to flip the time scarcity concept to your advantage. So if there is a time scarcity in that there's only 24 hours in a day, how do you want to align your time and your priorities? I see many who just feel like the charting is ballooning and taking so much of their time. But if you look at your priorities in life and you can kind of see where the charting falls in there, it isn't that you're not going to do it, but it's how much time and energy you're going to allot to it with conscious intention. And so what if you don't have enough time to spend doing perfectionist charts? What if you don't have enough time to have drama and negativity and shame about the in basket, and you literally don't want to waste any more energy on that? You just want to get it done as efficiently as possible and as easily as possible.
So some reflection questions as we close this podcast episode. How do you think you can change the way that you chart to serve you?
How can charting be a form of self-care?
How can you use charting or any other task that you would rather not do as a way to practice mindfulness? For in the moment mindfulness resources, check out my mobile wellness for healthcare professionals section of my website at awakenbreath.org for 1 to 5 minute videos that you can try at any time. Maybe even trying one before you chart.
And join us in the Mindful Healthcare Collective if you haven't already, for lots of tips on bringing mindfulness into your practice of medicine. Not just your charting, but how you interact with your patients and how you interact with the fact that you are a physician and a healer and a healthcare provider of any kind.
Stay on after the sound of the singing bowl for our mindful moment offering. Thanks for joining us.
As always, if you want to declutter your mind, be more present, and start truly living your one wild and precious life, come find us at the mindfulhealerspodcast.com. mindfulness.com.
Work with one of us.
Work with both of us.
Start or uplevel your mindfulness practice.
Discover how mindful coaching can change your life.
Or even better, do both as part of our Mindful Healers programs and retreats. You can find links to find out more about our programs and join our communities at themindfulhealerspodcast.com.
Reach out and get started on your journey to a life better lived today.
The content of this podcast is not meant to be medical or life advice. If you choose to participate in our mindful moments, please do so safely.
Welcome to today's mindful moment. If it's safe to do so, find a comfortable seat. If you're driving or in a place where it's unsafe to practice mindfulness, please opt out. Take a moment to ground your sit bones into whatever you may be sitting on. Or if you're walking, pause and notice your feet upon the earth. Take a moment to come back into your body. Today, we will reflect a bit on feeling neutral in the midst of having to do things perhaps that you do not like or are out of your control. Take a long, deep inhale through your nose and an exhale through your mouth. Noticing how you feel even with one deep breath. Something that is in your control, even when you may have to do things that are frustrating, overwhelming, and perhaps even evoke shame. Bringing a hand to heart, one hand atop the other. Notice how it feels to connect the palm of your hand to your heart space. And notice how it feels to have the other palm atop the dorsum of the lower hand. Taking in another long, deep inhale here. And a smooth exhale, letting things go. If it's comfortable for you to do so, close your eyes and just notice how you feel. Notice perhaps as you think about charts or chores or taxes or things that are difficult to do. Do you have resistance in your chest? Do you have just a bit of shame, frustration, wishing you didn't have to do it, wishing it were different? Allow that sensation. It's okay to wish it were different. Taking a deep breath into it and a huge breath out. What if, even in the face of not wanting to do it, you could just feel neutral about it? What would neutral do? Take in an inhale and an exhale. What would feeling neutral about this thing that you don't want to do feel like? Might it be kind to feel neutral about all the things on your to-do list that perhaps you haven't done? What would kindness do? Take in another long, deep inhale and a smooth exhale. Might kindness get those things done? Might kindness just start? Is it perhaps unkind to not do them? What if they are just neutral things to be done? Just a number of things to be done. No need to have the extra weight of frustration about perhaps not enough time to do them, or lack of organization and not getting them done, all the stories about those things. What if they are just neutral? What if they're as neutral as brushing your teeth? Take in a long, deep, smooth inhale. And a huge exhale. Notice your hands on the heart. Notice how good it feels to connect to yourself, sending yourself some kindness and compassion and neutrality in the face of things that you don't want to do, that you don't perhaps feel good about having not done. Take in another long, deep, smooth, compassionate, kind, neutral inhale. And an exhale, letting things go. Notice perhaps you feel a little lighter. Notice perhaps some tingling in your fingers and your toes. Can you let a little bit of the shame and frustration go on the next inhale? Take a long, deep inhale. And a long, smooth exhale, letting frustration, shame, resistance, all the stories go. Breathing in kindness. Breathing out frustration. Breathing in neutrality. Breathing out shame. Breathing in hope. Letting go of the heaviness around the things that are not yet done. And just notice how light neutral can feel. Knowing that you don't have to get to a point of loving things or feeling amazing, but that neutral can be a much better place than where you began. Take in a long, smooth, final, deep, nourishing inhale. And a huge exhale. Letting everything go. Press the heel of your hand into the heart space, sending yourself some kindness, lessening the cortisol and the stress in your body, releasing some oxytocin, letting it spread throughout your body from that golden light of sunlight in the heart space down into your belly, down through your legs to your feet, out to the sides of your chest, out your arms, up your neck, the throat, into your head, into that space behind your eyes. Taking in another deep, nourishing inhale and an exhale. A moment of just feeling good, feeling better, perhaps some relief, or perhaps merely just neutral. When you're ready, slowly lower your hands to your thighs. Open your eyes and notice how you feel. Hopefully, it feels a little lighter, a little better, and a little bit more neutral. Have a beautiful day. Namaste.